Your people, your key. They're going to probably be the biggest expense you're going to have. They're going to be your love and your joy in running any business. And also, though, they are going to be a headache maybe sometimes if you get it wrong. And getting a wrong employee is really bad for a business. Don't be afraid to ask exactly what you want to know the answer to. It's your business at the end of the day, so don't take chances. And gut instinct is pretty important.
So today I'm with Abigail Stevens, who is the Managing Director of Think Global Recruitment, which is a global recruitment company specialising in the financial services sector. But Abigail, could you maybe tell us a little bit more about the journey of your idea, and also why you're a Managing Director and not Chief Exec?
Absolutely, okay. So, well, the journey of my idea would start out with having had a background in marketing and PR. I sort of travelled around the globe, ended up in Australia for a few years, and then moved back to the UK. Whilst looking for a marketing job, I was approached by the recruitment agency I worked for to move into recruitment. And it turned out I was very, very good at that. I ended up very quickly managing a large division of people that were doing very well and doing amazingly well in the business. The directors of the business wanted me to become a director and part of a up-and-coming management buyout. And at that point, they did an assessment and they looked to see who would be the best directors in the business. And it came out that I was exceedingly entrepreneurial, and the feedback I got from their survey said that I would be very good at running a business, which I guess I'd known at heart. I was 28 years old, and being told that gave you a lot of confidence. I then thought back that for many years I'd been talking to the other directors in the business and sort of coming up with ideas because my division was the most profitable, but I was always told by the others, well, actually we don't want to change that because it's always been done this way. So I guess that spurred you on and you thought, well, maybe I should be doing this alone. Think Global Recruitment, I went and I put together a business plan, and it sort of fell in place. I was very confident, I guess, at that time. A lot of people said you were brave, and maybe I was naive. And I thought, yeah, this will happen, this is easy, because I'd been high flying in my role. I've been doing very well at what I did.
So you make it sound dead easy. So it's like, I pulled together a business plan. How? Was that just a case of sitting down at a computer with a blank screen and typing stuff, or what exactly did you do to make a business plan?
Do you know what I did? I sat down at a computer, but I used resources, I used books at the time because it was less Googling in those days. I looked around, I spoke to people that I knew that ran businesses. I met with an accountant because our businesses I've been in recruitment, moving accountants around the globe, and I knew a very entrepreneurial accountant that had left Anderson's, and he had set up his own business, so he was quite good at giving me some advice as well. And back then the bank managers were a lot more friendlier and a lot more helpful, and they were absolutely awesome as well, at sort of talking me through some of the things that need to be done. Handed my notice in with my business, and within a month I had sourced an office. I went around all the business centres. Using business centres is really good as well to start a business if you're starting small, because you're surrounded by other people that run small businesses that can talk you through those things. So
you wrote the business plan and then quit your job and basically just dove off the deep end into the abyss.
I literally dove off into the abyss. We're going from a very high paid job as well.
Yeah.
And started with a couple of temps helping me build a database in the background.
And so how did you fund this?
And so this was first self-funded from bonuses that I'd earned in my previous business over the years. I needed enough money for an office. I have always tapped into grants. The Scottish Government actually in the past have been very good at helping small businesses and enterprises. Back then, I think the very first grant I got was enough to buy a pair of shoes a month or something, but it helped, all these things helped. I had to get a couple of computers, and I had to get an office space and pay for that monthly and pay my salary, obviously. The salary is the big thing. What the first pitfall I would say is that my business plan was very optimistic, because I am an optimistic person, and I would now say in hindsight, when you plan to get money in twice as long as you thought it would, so it won't come as soon as you think. Plan to get half as much as you think you're going to get if you're as optimistic as I am, and plan to have twice as many outgoings as you think you're going to have. And that certainly would help. it might not be that way, and if you overachieve, it's even better, isn't it? But things took a bit longer to go. We had the dot-com recession the year I started, so things were a bit slower than you first think they're going to be. But you need to flex with that.
And why the global accountants thing? Was that what you did previously in your previous job, and you just basically went alone?
Yes, basically, and that was one of the things that I was really passionate about. So when I fell into recruitment, it was a local accountancy, and then I got headhunted to this other agency who had a slightly dormant international accountancy desk, and it's very rare, virtually no other agencies at that point were doing international recruitment. But I took to that one, so I was billing 3 times as much on the international desk versus the local desk, and then started getting more people in to join me doing the local, and then we kept expanding the international. So that was the bit that thrilled me. I don't think I'd still be in recruitment if it was sort of local to local so much. It's the international bit, the chance of giving somebody the opportunity to prove their lives, to move internationally, to gain different experience, to also have a life experience with it. It's not just about the job change, it's that whole big change.
So shifting gear ever so slightly, and we'll come back to your business thing, but as soon as you talk about the international recruitment task, if someone watching this has a business and they're entering into a new market, or they need to do international recruitment, do you have any top tips or FAQs you can give us around how someone would do that on their own, or how someone would find someone like you to do that for them?
Absolutely, yeah. My first advice would be try and use an agency that's used to doing it, because there can be pitfalls in it, but there can be some really good plus points from looking at that. I mean, why just find the best person locally on your doorstep? Why not find the best person in the world? But the key pitfalls are usually around the motivations and understanding motivations of people. Because if you're hiring somebody internationally and they haven't been to your location, which 9 times out of 10 the person's never visited the location they moved to, then you've got to make sure they've got the right motivations. They haven't just, say, woken up one day in Scotland in winter and gone, I want to go somewhere sunny and be there. They need to actually have proper motivations for moving there, and never money motivations. They always fall down. So the process can fall apart where you think you've got the ideal person to come and work for you, but they actually pull out of it, or they start and leave because they haven't really fully understood all the pros and cons of where they're moving to. The skills, obviously you want to check that the way it's done in the other country is similar or the same, and if it's not, do you have the training capacity to train somebody to do it the way that you want it done in your location? But many times we get hired to find people with expertise of other locations. So, for example, a company that does lots of dealings from Europe hired us to get somebody from Japan that had US experience. And those type of needles in a haystack can be really hard to find, but when you've got them, they're ideal for you then doing international business.
Moving gear then back to your business, we were talking before we did the interview, and I introduced you as the managing director, and you said something very interesting, which was about how you were a lifestyle business. Oh no, you were going for growth in a lifestyle business, and I was saying how I think a lot of people, because of the Silicon Valley influence, where you got to be a unicorn, you got to build it to sell it, exit for $1 billion. Anything less than $1 billion is failure. Could you talk a bit about your experience of that, and why you've made these decisions, and also why things have changed for you?
Sure, yes. So I actually did start the business with the idea of selling it. We got to the 5 years in and got a little bit greedy and decided it was going so well. I could have sold it at that point at quite a lot of money and had a few approaches. But decided, no, let's stay in there, not foreseeing 2007. So 2007 was life-changing for us. At that point, we had offices in Sydney, Wellington, Edinburgh, London, Glasgow, and we were about to open Hong Kong. 2007 financial services crash was big for somebody that supplies accountants, and particularly with financial services industry influenced us a lot. So we looked at what we were doing at that point and decided to close the remote offices and focus from one office, because we could actually recruit globally from one office. That had to happen. It was a very sad time to do that. We consolidated, and a few of the London, a few of the Glasgow office people moved to Edinburgh to work with us in Edinburgh, and we kept our business going at that level for a long time. A level of about 20 people for a long time, with a much reduced turnover. And then a few years back, my number 2, he was the one who was managing all the troops, etc., decided to place himself in the Cayman Islands. So he moved off. We'd been selling the dream for so long. He decided to do it. Still there now. We're still in really good communication. But he moved himself there, and at the time it wasn't appropriate for him to still work for us whilst he was there. And I decided at that point, you know what, I think I'm going to make the business a bit more lifestyle and take my foot off the ball for a bit, because I'd been doing it for many years and we'd had a few recessions by this point, ups and downs and things. We went, yeah, great, we get through them, we're very good at doing that. But let's have a break for a bit and then work out where I want to be. And then COVID happened. And the first time I sat down with my director when we realised what was happening, which was really interesting. It was right at the beginning of COVID, and we were supposed to be having a meal, in fact, a meeting on the Royal Mile with the Recruitment Confederation, and they had speakers coming over from LinkedIn that cancelled that day to say we're not letting anyone fly across the world because this COVID thing that's come out. And at that point, I phoned up and cancelled going to there, phoned my director, co-director up and said, do you know what? People aren't flying across the world. This is going to be a bit of an issue for international recruitment. And so we got it before everything shut down and realised what was going on and did our SWOT analysis and just looked for all the pros that might come out of it.
And did you get it right?
Yes, I would say we definitely got it right. We started expanding whilst everyone else was letting their staff go or putting them on furlough.
Why did you make that decision? What did you uncover that no one else had?
We worked out, well, we knew from previous sort of recessions where people had been let go that after that period there'll be a desperate need for accountants, and there always has been. And so after that the market goes into market we quite like, because we've got lots of jobs on. If we find the candidates and we use our skills, which in-house recruiters don't have as much experience in, then we can find the right people for them and fill the gaps. And of course people look more internationally when they can't find people locally. We also realised that if good consultants were being let go, this was a time in the market we could get them. And then there was this realisation, which happened a couple of months after that, was, well, actually, we don't need to just get them in Edinburgh, because everyone's starting to work from home and everyone's seeing what it's like working from home. There's going to be people that want to continue working from home after all this happens. So we decided to close the Edinburgh office and make our recruitment remote, so we could hire the best consultants in the world, just like our clients hire the best accountants in the world. So we now have consultants based in England, Ireland, Scotland, Wales, South Africa, Canada, Colombia, wherever the best person is, Spain, they can work for us and do the job, which also helps because we've got people all over in different centres to work with the different cultures that are out there and give us advice on how to attract the best people from different cultures, etc.
You made another really interesting point that I hadn't heard before, about the impact that Brexit has had on your business, and then the piece of positive news about that. Could you talk about that? I mean, obviously there's people watching this from all over the world, but in every country there are things that happen that impact that country, and it's about being able to negotiate your way through them. Could you talk about how you've dealt with Brexit and what's come out of that?
Yeah, no, sure. So Brexit, again, was another one we had to do the SWOT analysis on at the beginning and work out, well, where are the pros coming out of this and how do we get into them, but also to forward think. And the big thing with Brexit was that it meant that from a point of view of finding staff, the UK have always drawn people from Europe, and they've because they shared the visas, but then they had to start sponsoring people from Europe. So instead of sponsoring people from Europe, they decide they now will sponsor people from anywhere in the world, and they're drawing the best people from across the globe and looking at every different centre, which helped our recruitment in some ways, and made that quite good.
And so what's next? So are you in growth mode or lifestyle mode at the moment?
We're in growth mode. We're very much in growth mode.
And why have you decided to come out of lifestyle mode then?
I guess my heart was always to build a business to sell at some point.
So you're looking to sell at some point?
Looking to sell. I hit my 50th birthday this year.
Congratulations.
So, and I want to get that business to a real high, and either have a management buyout or sell, whatever's the right thing for the business at that point. Yeah, in the next few years when it's right.
You got a price tag?
Yes, I have a price tag, and it's actually lower than it was when I first set up the business, because I've learned that you know there's right timing for everything. So yeah.
Can we ask what it is?
I'm not sure I want to say that on camera, but yeah, I mean, I want to have a very comfortable lifestyle. I would like houses in a few different countries, and
how are you? So we won't ask you what the number is, but what metrics have you used to put a value on that?
Okay, so we know what is the in the recruitment industry, how to get the best PE and you know, what to set up. Usually the sweet spot that companies are being sold for is about 20 to 28 staff. Probably at that point we'll have a 5 million turnover. Profit will be maybe 3 million if we're lucky. We're not lucky if we're clever. So the business should you know, raise enough for me to have that lifestyle that I want, and probably move into more of a consulting type ad hoc role, helping other businesses.
And so what are you doing to prepare for that? Because obviously, you know, from just talking to you, it sounds like you're a big part of the business. And so obviously if you're selling it, you're losing one of its biggest assets. How do you stop it being that, you know, that thing?
We've always had that in mind, and even when I started the business, at the time I started it, anyone that started a recruitment business named it after themselves, and I decided it wasn't ever going to be called Abigail Stevens, it was always going to be called Think Global Recruitment. When I first advertised the business, my name was big because of people knew me in the market, I was an expert, and Think Global Recruitment was small, but then we turned the adverts around in the first few months, so it became that, Think Global Recruitment. Now, succession planning is obviously the essential thing. So I am bringing up people through the business that I hope will be that strong person to step in where I am. I am also looking for more people to do that. Interestingly, recruitment, there is a massive shortage of recruitment consultants, recruitment managers at this moment out there, but there's people that are very interested in being in part of something like a management buyout and coming through that route, and they're the key people that we're looking for to join the business and drive it forward.
And any advice for people, just general recruitment advice, any advice for people who are need to or want to use a recruitment company? How do you know if because as someone that's used good and bad recruitment companies in the past, it's kind of like you don't know, or I didn't know until it was too late whether they were good or bad. Do you have any top tips for how to manage, procure, and to get the best out of your agency?
Absolutely, yeah. I would find a specialist in the sector that you're trying to recruit in, not a generalist. I think it's always very good to have that. I would actually try and build a relationship. There's a lot of new models coming out now with recruitment agencies where you build a partnership with them, and instead of just paying a contingency recruitment, you work in a partnership on some sort of retained basis depending on your needs. Those type of agencies are probably going to be far better for you because they're consultative. They'll really just go out there and find the right person for you rather than being put up, here's someone on my database. And make sure you get on well with the individual. Make sure they understand you. They really should be spending more than an hour getting a job spec off you, not just a spec you write. They should be experts, and there'll be a lot more questions that one-dimensional piece of paper doesn't answer to get the right match. And then they should be in there throughout the process with you to help support you and give you the advice that you need on the market, the salaries, and all the feedback that you need.
And any top tips for someone that doesn't have the reserves to be able to pay the fees of a recruitment company, or they're starting out, and any top tips on how to do this stuff yourself? Yeah,
I mean the key is always give value to this part of the process. Your people, your key. They're going to probably be the biggest expense you're going to have. They're going to be your love and your joy in running any business. And also, though, they are going to be a headache maybe sometimes if you get it wrong. And getting a wrong employee is absolutely really bad for a business, because not only do they come in and leave, but they disrupt your existing business, and the other staff around that will be disrupted by someone coming in and leaving, and they take your time to train and develop them. So getting it right is so important. Put the time and effort into it. Probe. Don't take people at face value. Dig down. Ask more and more questions to get to what's the real truths. And pre-interview, think of all the questions you want to ask, and don't be afraid to ask exactly what you want to know the answer to, and dig on that. It's your business at the end of the day, but it's also for them, because if they're not right for the business, it's also not very nice for that person you're hiring. So don't take chances, and gut instinct is pretty important.